Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. The entire market is breaking out of nearly a year-long range. Through this breakout, we are seeing so many new ecosystems exploding in value, gaining massive amounts of adoption, and TVLs are exploding through the roof. As this is happening, we're seeing so many new opportunities inside of these ecosystems that are creating multiple 10, 20, and even 100x returns depending on where you're getting into these. Now that we've had this breakout, I expect that these ecosystems are going to be taking off even more. So for today's video, I'm going to be breaking down where I see the money going, where to make the most money as it flows, and how to go about finding these ecosystems before they take off. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, now right off the bat when we're talking about what we're seeing today, we need to get into Bitcoin because Bitcoin is continuing to see more upside as it stands right now. Now the news has come out, we actually saw the Shanghai token unlocked for Ethereum, so all of those staked Ethereum from 2020 were now unlocked, and we've actually seen the markets breaking out. And so I talked a little bit about why I thought that was going to be the case. All the news articles were bearish, everybody was saying that the market was going to go down because of these unlocks, and Ethereum is broken out, and Bitcoin is broken out, and the rest of the market's broken out. So I still think that the market is going to see some more upside potential from here. So we're seeing this breakout, we're seeing more continuation, but now we're coming closer towards our major resistance that in my opinion is going to be the most important level for Bitcoin moving forward in the short term. Bitcoin is going to be running up to this level anywhere from about 32,000 to about 31,750. And the second that we kind of hit this level, I won't be surprised that we do see some type of sell-off. If we come up here and tag this level and then we get some deviation, the market's unable to actually get a strong move above, we could actually see this thing come back down and retest the breakout point, or maybe even all the way back down to this entire consolidation that we're at in here before building another foundation that we could go up even higher. So that's something I'm at least paying attention to. We're going to watch and see a strong move outside of this resistance that takes us closer to 35,000, let's just say, somewhere around that range. Then we would actually be looking that this entire move was a support and resistance flip. If we get a strong move upwards of 35,000, then any sort of sell-off, even if we come back down slightly below this red level and we come all the way over here to this prior consolidation from the bull market being around 29 or 30K, that's something to pay attention for, and that would be the most bullish case scenario, where even if we come back down, we would be retesting this level, and in my opinion, that would really set us in for that next rise upwards of 40K and even up to $48,500. So that's kind of the way that I'm going to be watching Bitcoin in the short term. Either way, I still think we see more upside until at least this next resistance up here. And so with all these altcoins breaking out, I wanted to get into a few different ecosystems and a few different altcoins inside of these ecosystems I think are going to provide a lot of gains as Bitcoin ultimately starts breaking out higher into this next cycle. Now, right off the bat, we have to start with Arbitrum. Arbitrum is the one that I think has the most potential over the cycle, because I really feel like Arbitrum as a whole is going to see really DeFi taking off, and that's what we're seeing thus far. DeFi is really focused in on Arbitrum. The majority of the money that's taking off inside of DeFi is solely focused in there, and what we've seen is a lot of projects that are actually leaving their older ecosystems, whether it's bridging from Ethereum, bridging from Optimism, or some other chain, and once they move over to Arbitrum, they're actually seeing their TVLs increase and flipping their all-time highs. So we're seeing a ton of volume inside of Arbitrum. There's a lot of altcoins that are bridging over there that are trying to capture a little bit of that spotlight and adoption, and I think that ultimately this is going to fuel the price of Arbitrum token itself. Now Arbitrum token is just a governance token. It's currently sitting around 40 in total market cap, so I think that this one will ultimately move around that 15 to top 10 in market cap. Whether it takes the whole cycle or whether it does it fairly quickly, I don't think it really matters. That's just kind of where I think that it sits long term. Now thus far, we've never really broken support. We have held support between this support, we retested it here, we're unable to actually clear below, and that was about $1.10. We've consolidated sideways ever since, and now we're starting to see a breakout. Now this breakout takes us also outside of descending resistance. That was kind of what we were consolidating on, was this descending triangle type of pattern. So us to break out of this is a bullish sign. Even if we end up pulling back here in the short term, I still think that this can run for one more high, come upwards of this resistance here, and then from there I would expect that we would see some type of pullback like this. Come back down, retest this midpoint of the range, confirm that that's actually going to be a breakout, and then from there we could expect to see continuation. But I think regardless, big picture, this is going to go up. The Arbitrum ecosystem as a whole is going to go up. We're already seeing a lot of adoption in there. Even though certain altcoins in the ecosystem are selling off, I think that as we're seeing Arbitrum breaking out, that's an early sign that we could expect to see that the early tokens inside of that ecosystem are going to continue to break out as well. So watch out for this one. The first one I want to talk about, the coin that is the best one in the ecosystem, is actually going to be GMX. I haven't talked about GMX in a little while, so I figured today would be a great opportunity of doing so. I know a lot of you guys are actually invested into this. I talked a lot about this one when we were making this initial run up here and even into this sell-off right there. And so if you have bought into this, congratulations. We are now into new all-time highs. So the most bullish case scenario that could have possibly happened has happened. We broke out of all-time highs. We've actually retested previous all-time highs a number of different times in here. And even most recently during this sell-off, we didn't come all the way back down to those. But now we're starting the next stages where we're most likely going to be seeing another breakout of all-time highs into price discovery. And that's kind of what this consolidation looks like here. It looks like we're in some type of triangle, some type of ascending triangle, I guess you could say. But either way, this just looks bullish. Looks like it's about to send it into the next high. We're going to be going past $100 into this next move. And so this is kind of the signal as Arbitrum as a whole is going into price discovery that most likely the token will benefit. And this is just going to be sharing it amongst the ecosystem. Now that Arbitrum has a token, there's way more liquidity inside of the market and the ecosystem as a whole. That gives us a lot more upside potential inside of a lot of these altcoins. There's more of a spotlight. Now people are more interested in being able to actually buy a token itself. And so I think that a lot of these altcoins are going to see a lot more appreciation from here. And with GMX being the leader of Arbitrum, you know, this thing still doesn't even have $1 billion in total market cap. So in relatives perspective, I think that this is actually undervalued. I still think that, you know, for me personally, I've already bought what I'm going to, and I'm just staking what I've got for the entirety of the cycle. But this is the blue chip of Arbitrum. If you wanted to buy something even outside of Arbitrum itself, this is the way that I would start. And this is going to be really the blue chip crypto of the ecosystem. If we're going to see Arbitrum continue to see a lot of adoption, but I believe in this next leg up, you're going to start seeing a lot more on social media. So pay attention for GMX. Now next up is going to be Midas. Now Midas is one of my favorite ecosystems going into this next cycle. Genuinely think that this thing's going to have a massive cycle, and not too many people are talking about it. Relatively undervalued when we're comparing it to other layer 2s. They're already kind of bridging into the ZK narrative. Now when ZK Sync goes live, we have ZK rollups officially. I think that a lot of this is going to take off, and Midas has already kind of bridged that into their ecosystem. So as far as it stands, Midas is right there on the path with all the other ones. The only difference is it hasn't seen as much adoption up to this point, and I do believe that that will change. We're going to see a lot of money coming into layer 2s. It's no secret. We're already seeing that up to this point. And so with this one kind of being a lagging one in comparison to maybe Optimism, in comparison to Arbitrum and some of those other ones, I think that now is the time where this one's going to start seeing more appreciation. And I love this chart because it looks so much the same as what we saw in Ethereum all the way back after COVID, late into, you know, pretty much early summer. At that point, we flipped resistance, and then we went into price discovery for that first new cycle. And where Midas is today, it looks exactly the same. The only difference is Ethereum held higher support. You know, Ethereum was holding support all the way above here at the range highs, whereas Midas has kind of come back down to the midway point of the range, and that's where it's consolidating. I don't think it really matters that much, because I'm not expecting that Midas is going to just make this massive parabolic rally, but I do think that Midas could go all the way up to maybe the top of this B wave, which would be a 618 retest. If we come up here and drop some fibs, let's talk about high-end potentials. So the 618 would actually be higher. This wave B would actually only be the 0.5 fib, and I do think it could come all the way up and hit that level. But for me, where I'd be watching is basically the 236 and the 382 all the way up to the 0.5. It could really rally anywhere in between that point, but the big thing is once we clear these range highs from here and here, that really sets us in for that big parabolic move. And what's interesting is the fact that we have stacking one waves. This was a wave 1, and then this one is a wave 1 of 3. So the next move could very easily run all the way to this 0.5, and I'm not going to try and say exactly where it's going to go because nobody really does. It all is centered around Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes to $48,000 and makes a massive move to its 618, then yeah, we could definitely be looking at Midas sitting up here at this 0.5. However, if Bitcoin only goes to 40K, you know, we could be sitting at Midas at around the 236 to the 382, somewhere in there. either way, that's still a good return nonetheless. And inside of a higher cap crypto, this isn't even a high cap crypto. It's got like 130 to 140 million dollars in total market cap. So I would say that's a mid cap. And the upside potential in this ecosystem, it's always the best inside of ecosystem plays. That's why I'm making this video. If you're wondering why I even want to talk about ecosystems and the best tokens in them, it's because whenever an ecosystem benefits, whenever new tokens build inside of it, it benefits the token as a whole, the entirety of the ecosystem. So Midas, any token that builds in Midas that gets adoption, it's only going to benefit Midas as a whole, right? And so that's why I always say invest into the early ecosystems, especially at this point in the cycle, because these ones see the most adoption, and these are really where the big returns are found. So now that we're at this point, we're getting ready for wave 3 of 3. This is wave 1 of 3. We'll get ready for wave 3 of 3. We'll probably run up to about $88, come back down to retest around these range highs, and then we'll still have another 5 wave to come. And so that's why I say I'm kind of watching for around this 236, 382, and 0.5, because depending on how big this 3 wave gets, we could see a move to the 0.5. The bigger this move is, I think the bigger the move up to the, obviously the bigger the move to the upside would be, but it's really going to be centered around the waves. We have to see a certain specific criteria here. If we go from the low to the high back to the midpoint, we have to go to at least the 1618 inside of this next move, but oftentimes inside of wave 3s we will see an extension upwards of about double, which would take us to around the 2618. But I would say anywhere from the 1618 being $68 all the way to the 2618 being about, roughly $100, somewhere in between that point. That's where we'd be looking for our next cycle top for this move. And then from there, like I stated, we still have a whole nother impulse to come after that. So I think regardless of what level we go up to, we're undervalued. To me, this is a long-term hold, and we're just simply talking about why I like this ecosystem. Now, the top coin on this ecosystem that I really like is actually going to be Hummus. Now, really, guys, when I talk about cryptos, one of the things I factor in is I look at the crypto itself, I look at what it's doing, the fundamental use case, I guess you could say, and then I come over and look at the chart, because that gives me the most clear idea of what's happening. Because the chart tells you if the market's actually getting any sort of accumulation, because the chart will tell you through price. What we've seen up to this point has been a breakout of descending resistance. We actually saw this breakout over here at the beginning of our cycle. We've never seen this make a lower low, right? This was taking us all the way into June when all of the markets were collapsing, and even at the worst point of the FTX collapse, we never broke below that. So a lot of these altcoins are showing a lot of strength. And then after that June low, we saw our first impulse up, 3, 4, 5, massive extended wave 5, and then this long A, B, C correction all the way back down. And then most recently, we did see this breakout of our long-term descending resistance, and what also happened was we saw our first impulse here. So this is just a wave 1, wave 2 correction. This correction took us right back down to retest descending resistance as support, and we've basically just been having this pretty consistent uptrend ever since, getting close to the breakout point of these range highs. And I think that the next wave that we go to is probably going to be the top of this B wave, somewhere around here. Might pull back to around the top of this wave 1, but then most likely this next impulse is just going to be taking us upwards of the highs that we saw at the wave 5 being August. And so that's kind of what I'm expecting inside of these plays. Overall, they could go more parabolic. We don't know. A lot of this is going to have to factor in with what happens with Midas and the ecosystem as a whole. So, right now we're just seeing the early subwaves, the very beginning impulses of a new market cycle. And so, with this one having pretty obvious accumulation, in my opinion. Even if we see a short-term sell-off in here, that would be a good opportunity to actually get in. This is one you do want to watch out for. And there's really only $8,500 worth of liquidity inside of this right now. So when we're talking about low cap cryptos that could just instantly start pumping, I drew this all the way going into July. It could happen much quicker. It could be much more impulsive. We don't know. All we know is we finished a wave 1 and we're in the early subwaves of a wave 3. Wave 3s are known to be very impulsive, and so I would expect anything. If Midas explodes and goes all the way up to here, Hummus is going to do the exact same thing, so be watching for this one. Now, next up on the list is going to be Phantom. Phantom's a really exciting ecosystem, and it's really one of the few ecosystems that I expect to get more adoption even into this next cycle, considering it was one of the cryptos that did well even in the last cycle. Now, what we've seen up to this point, we've already flipped the accumulation range. This entire consolidation that we were in over here in the bear market, we basically flipped it with this most recent move here. and now we're getting continuation from that point. And so I would expect that Phantom in the minimum is going to go up to about 86 cents, and depending on how high Bitcoin goes, we could see a move even upwards of about $1.68. If we're looking at Fibonacci, if you go to the high all the way down to the low, that would be taking us to around the 0.5, and you know, maybe the 618. I'm not going to say that so much with altcoins. I think that Bitcoin itself can go to the 618. That would be $48,500. If Bitcoin does that, some altcoins are going to outperform, but the majority of altcoins, in my opinion, would probably underperform. And that's just the way that they generally start the cycle. And so you could be looking at anywhere inside of this point for altcoins. And that's why I say the best thing is just simply take profits based off of these fib levels. Because we don't know exactly where they're going to top. So it's not like you need to try and predict the exact top, and you're never going to know when that is. So, you know, stick to these fib levels. Look at these little levels down in here. 86 cents is a pretty obvious resistance because that's going to be taking us to the highs that we saw in 2021, and it's also going to be taking us to roughly the same consolidation that we saw at the very end of the bull market and the beginning of the bear market. So that's kind of what I'm watching for Phantom. Regardless, this is just the first leg up. This next one's going to be going up pretty quick, and so I think that the whole ecosystem should benefit as a whole. And my favorite crypto in the ecosystem is actually going to be Spooky Swap, which is the token or ticker is Boo. Now this is a fork of Uniswap, so it's basically just Uniswap. You can do all the same things that you can do on Uniswap over here, but it's on the Phantom network. Now it looks exactly the same as the Phantom price. We've only ever had our first impulse off of the lows, and that was the wave 1, wave 3, and then wave 5 up here. ABC correction all the way back down to support. So this is just a subwave of wave 1. We're consolidating, and we're most likely going to be starting to make our next breakout and do something along the lines of this. Overall, I think that where these altcoins are, they're so undervalued, and the opportunity is truly limitless. By investing into some of these early ecosystems, whether it's the main token themselves, they're not quite as undervalued. But if you're looking into some of the big cryptos inside of the ecosystems, you know, swaps are always a good way to look, DEXs, you know, anything like that, anything that you can earn yield off of, anything inside of DeFi, whatever narratives that you think are going to play out big in this cycle, look for different cryptos that are playing those narratives inside of these ecosystems. And maybe they end up getting a lot of adoption. You never really know. With us being at the beginning of the bull run, there is a lot of opportunity. Because, I mean, guys, all of these that were in the last cycle, you know, they made one impulse, then they've corrected all the way back down. If their main ecosystem sees adoption, this is the biggest swap on Phantom, so it's probably going to see adoption as well. And a lot of that is reflected inside the price. The price looks exactly the same as what the price of Phantom does as well. The price of Boo looks just the same as the price of Phantom, and so we would expect that parity to continue. And in this next impulse, it could get pretty parabolic, especially if Phantom runs to 86 cents. We could see this thing go all the way up to about $8. That would be a decent move from where we're at today to the range highs here is 90%. This would be 195%. And then this would be like nearly a 4x. So I expect big things in this ecosystem. I'd be watching out for Boo or Spooky Swap. Now the next one on today's list is going to be OP or Optimism. Now with OP, I really like this setup. I always have. I knew that layer 2s were going to perform well. This is the biggest competitor to Arbitrum, up to this point. Now that we've flipped our prior all-time highs as support, there's pretty much nothing but upside potential from here. Now the wave count to me, this looks like a wave 1. This looks like a wave 3, wave 4, and we're getting ready for a wave 5 impulse up here. Whether it's an extended wave 5, whether it's a shorter lived one, I don't really know. But what we do know is our subwave, wave 1, wave 2, is completed, and this is a pretty big impulse. This wave 1 went all the way up to the range highs. So our wave 3 coming in next, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing runs all the way upwards of, you know, $4, $4.50, somewhere around there. Maybe we pull back, retest around those prior all-time highs of support, and then we get one more final wave 5 of 5, and then that completes our first cycle up. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. Let's actually make this one minor so you can tell what the heck's going on. And that would complete our wave 3. After that, we'd have some type of longer term correction, and then we still have more upside potential after. So regardless, I think the upside potential is massive. All we're doing right now is consolidating on the prior all-time highs of support. Price discovery comes next. This is a thriving new ecosystem. In fact, I believe the market cap is actually smaller than even the total market cap of GMX, and so it's way smaller than Arbitrum as a whole. This one's going to see just the same amount of adoption as Arbitrum. Maybe not as far as, total dollar amount, but as far as what we'll expect to see in a big cycle, this one's going to be right up there with it being a competitor. So be watching out for optimism. Now, I really like Velodrome based off of the way that the cycle is playing out up to this point. We've seen a perfect wave 1, wave 3, and now in my opinion we're getting ready for a wave 5. But the cool thing is this is only wave 3, right? So wave 5 could get overextended. We could have a massive blow off top in here. So I'm not going to say how high it's going to go because we really have no clear indication with a wave 5. Could be a short-lived one, could be overextended, but based off of how this first impulse all the way to the range highs and back down was, I think that wave 3, if we come in here, we have to have a minimum wave 3 target of this 1618. So we have to go to at least here in our next impulse. That'll be wave 3, wave 4, and then we still have another wave 5 after that. So in my opinion, we're probably running upwards of about 40 cents. Could go much higher depending on how overextended. But those are just minimum targets, right? Inside of this wave 3 could even overextend and run all the way up to this 2618 before pulling back. And then we still have a whole nother 5 wave to go after that before our wave 3 is done. So these are all important things to factor in. This thing could have a massive blow off top, and we really have no idea how high it's going to go. Optimism as a whole, how well it does is going to factor into how well this blow off top is. So if Optimism has this big extended move, then the whole ecosystem is going to do the same thing. And this is really one of the leaders inside of that ecosystem. It's only got $30 million in total market cap, so really undervalued in the big picture. And overall, even after this next impulse, wherever this tops at, let's just say 40 cents, correct back down, do something like this, that's still only the end of our wave 3. This will be wave 1, this will be wave 3, wave 4, and then we'll still have another wave 5 to go after that. So I think big picture, you can't really go wrong with this ecosystem, especially where we're talking about with Optimism. This one's going to be one of the leaders, and so I'd be watching out for Velodrome. So anyways, guys, if you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these updates. If you guys want to be able to see any of these cryptos before I ever talk about them on YouTube, every one of these has been a signal posted inside the Discord. If you want to be able to follow along with any of these early on, we've been into so many of these ecosystems before they've started to take off. Now that they're starting to take off, I expect that the profits are only going to continue to grow from here. So if you guys ever want to peek into what the heck I'm investing in, what I'm trading, what sort of things like NFTs and even DeFi protocols to earn yield, all of that is posted inside of my Discord server. So links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. Thank you all so much for the support. These are all some thriving ecosystems that I know are going to play out big. So if you guys are ever looking to do some research, find something that could potentially get a lot of adoption and play out and give you guys some good returns, these are what I'm looking for personally, what I'm personally invested in, and I think you guys should definitely check them out. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.